Well, hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Faith Greater Than Fear. It's a time we're here at GNPI in Joplin, Missouri. Myself, Mike Schrage, as president, we get to talk to people from local and internationally about what it is that they're doing, and particularly at this time of a pandemic. And one of the things that a lot of us are aware of is a special conference that goes on every November, and it's called ICOM, International Conference on Missions. And it has a volunteer president. I had an opportunity to serve in that role in 2016. And today we got a special treat because we got this year's president, Jeff Vine. So Jeff, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be here. So what I'm hearing is you understand all the travels and the dilemmas and the tensions that a president experiences. So you're a little bit sympathetic, I'm assuming.
I'm very sympathetic, except that I don't know how to be president during a pandemic. So that's what we want to talk about. How have you and Dave Empson, executive director of ICOM, had to hear the words of God and Spirit of God and pivot during these unusual times? Tell us what you're doing and how you're doing it.
You know, I think COVID-19, if there's one thing that it's done for a lot of us, is that we've had to take a pause and really ask some pretty serious questions about the rhythms of our lives and how we're going about accomplishing different things. And I thought, what a great year, because ICOM's had so many great presidents in the past and so many great conventions and speakers and missionary stories. I thought, what a great time when everyone's pausing to consider the future and the rhythms of their lives. How about pausing at ICOM and saying, what is the message that we're really taking out? We've got so many great organizations doing so many great things, benevolence. We've got hospitals being built. We've got mission stations that are really concentrating on the felt needs of their communities as they preach the gospel. And I thought, what a great time to just stop, pause, and say, okay, we're doing all these things and so many great organizations doing them well. Discipleship, evangelism, benevolence. What is the primary goal? What is the primary objective? And that objective has never changed. It's to help people far from God come near to the gospel message of Jesus Christ. So I thought, why not have a convention this year where we just pause and have 3 great sessions that talk about what message are we really delivering to the world? And what is the message of Jesus? Yes, it is one of compassion, benevolence. Those things are important, but we've really not finished the task until we help someone understand what motivates us ultimately. And that is because God sent his son to save us from our sins. That yes, we want to be healed physically, but primarily we want to know that we're in good standing with God spiritually, and that our soul will be, who we are will be with God for all of eternity. So we've got 3 great sessions, Mike, that are going to concentrate how deep does the gospel go in to the human experience. And the cross not only answers the question, Christianity not only answers the question of atonement, how can I be made right with God? What we've learned is that it answers every question, every penetrating question of the human heart. So we got 3 great speakers that are going to address that. Dr. Ravi Zacharias, who's been doing that all of his life in different parts of the world. Ajay Law, who brings a significant perspective because he's been used by God for a very long time in this area of benevolence and building hospitals and compassion and orphanages, but he's never wavered from the ultimate message of Jesus Christ. And he's going to share with us how that gospel message has been contextualized in the India experience and also in the COVID-19 experience. And then Charlie Delaney, who served as a missionary for 23 years in the bush of Africa, has some unique stories to tell. And he's an older guy, 81 years old, but can still preach like there's no tomorrow. And I asked him because in 1979, he was actually the president of what was then called the National Missionary Convention, what has now become the International Conference on Missions. And I asked him in my 20s if I could read his manuscript because he happens to be my father-in-law. And so I read the manuscript, and the manuscript was why Jesus is unique, why the message of Jesus is unique to the world. And I read that and I thought, wow, how appropriate is this message still today? So that's kind of the conference. It will be shared with media all over the world, with Vision Media Australia, with Rhema Media in New Zealand and the South Pacific, and we've just done a deal with Premier Media in London. So I think more will actually witness the words of ICOM than probably have ever in the past. But we're hoping to get them to the ICOM.org website, register. And then there's so many other things other than the main sessions. You have workshops, you have Bible studies, and of course you have incredible organizations like Good News Productions International, and you'll learn about organizations and what they're doing all around the world.
So melting it down, this ICOM, to really get it to the essence, and that the mission hasn't changed, but the method that you're going to get this out is changing, and you're going to do it online. You're going to do it also a physical event as well. Talk us a little bit through, because ICOM physically is going to look a little different also for those who might be in the Indianapolis area. Jeff, tell us about that.
Yeah, when we first made the decision, rather, because I went to David and I said, David, if we're going to go virtual, which I believe we should do this year because of COVID-19, we have to make the decision early. If we try to wait, and you would know this as a producer yourself, if you wait till the last weeks before the convention, you're going to be in big trouble, because we knew we would want to capture some really good stuff. So then I started to get excited because I realized that if we are able to do an excellent online experience, then we can also have SICOM, which is the teenage part of the convention. It's actually going to be live at the Indianapolis Convention Center. So you're going to have a couple thousand kids come. Robbie Zacharias' nephew, Nathan Betts, is leading that. And this year, I'll tell you, if I had a teenager, I would make sure they got to Indianapolis this year, or at least watched it online. And the reason is because there are some questions that we have in the Christian world, and we want to know how to relate well without repelling people. For instance, homosexuality right now, transgender issues, same-sex marriage issues. Those issues are dealt in such a loving way by RZIM to enable our high schoolers to go and communicate their faith and trust in God, and to also communicate these parameters that God has asked us to live in. And they teach us to understand that until you see God as a loving Father who gives precepts and parameters because he's motivated out of his love for you, as the creator of the world, he knows how a life can best be lived to be abundant. And that's what RZIM does so well. So if I had a teenager, I'd want them to be there to hear the biblical point of view on some of these major issues, and then to teach our students how to communicate that. And we like to use the word contextualization in missions, but there's a lot of contextualization that needs to happen right here in America in our modern culture. And so SICOM is going to happen. Plus, we're still going to have the exhibits. So there are going to be thousands from around the Indianapolis area that come and walk through the exhibits and discover what new works are happening, what organizations are doing what around the world to get the gospel in. And then there's also going to be some not live worship, but we will be able to put the main sessions on the big screens for people to walk through. The issue is we just can't gather thousands of people in one place, Mike, to be able to just help those who are most vulnerable to the COVID virus. And so, but we are going to have seating sessions, kind of like watch parties we're doing at our church in LA right now, where people can go into smaller rooms and watch the main sessions, and they can walk around and still network and still meet people who are doing great works in other parts of the world. So I really want to encourage exhibitors, don't sit this one out this year. You're still going to have a lot of people come through, and we're still going to do some filming on site of the exhibitors so that we can broadcast that at a later date. On the ICOM.org website, so that people who missed it can actually be able to view it at a later time. So this is the year to come, and make sure you're part of it.
Well, Jeff, thank you for your leadership. And I know you and David have worked with a great team, both from your church and also from his office vantage point. And so we hear about this melted down message that is, as you mentioned, at least in the oral sense, is going to be radio broadcast like never before. You're going to have two venues, one online and one physical. Hey, please, if you got a kid, send them up to Indianapolis for SICOM, like you were saying. And then you're going to have the ability to have it recorded and then offered later on, which, really ICOM has never done before. So this is a new year. It's kind of cutting its teeth, and I appreciate your leadership in it. I know that there's been a prayer initiative, the 714 prayer initiative as well. And so with that, tell us as an audience where we can go to sign up, and where can we go to, at this even date, continue to pray for God's blessing on your work and on ICOM and its work.
Yeah, we decided to run everything through the main website of theicom.org. Once you get there, you'll follow the prompts and you can sign your church up. You can sign up as an individual. Actually, we're making it available to Australia and the South Pacific Islands and to the UK and to Africa, that people can go and click on an icon and register. So it's going to be different costs depending on what country you're from, obviously. And we're also asking a lot of our American attenders who usually come to invest maybe in someone in Africa or someone in different countries that can also have access. We also, what I'm really excited about, and you mentioned, because of this format, we're able to record and capture and keep. So if you're in New Zealand or Australia, you probably don't want to view the main sessions at the actual time they're being broadcast in Indianapolis. So you can purchase, you can register, and then you can download those. You'll be able to watch those at any time in the future. So we're hoping that people are going to be doing ICOM all throughout, all the way until next April. And I say that because as I've met with even some of our Bible colleges, I've encouraged them that because we put so much time into the main sessions, you have worship, speakers, and organizations like Good News Productions International, you learn about the work they're doing. I've encouraged the presidents to, during their week of missions, to just show the 3 main sessions in their chapel services. So if you have access to these, then you can show them at will, anytime. It's kind of like on demand. Everyone's into that. Who watches live TV anymore anyway? And so I'm excited about that. I also want people to continue to pray that that somehow during the course of this entire challenging event of ICOM, that the church would remember that God does his best work when things are difficult, when they seem difficult to overcome. One of the messages I've been giving of the cross is because we are people of the cross, we should know better than anyone else that sometimes God is able to do his best work when we're in the most difficult seasons of our lives. That is the message of the cross. When was Jesus most centered in the will of the Father? When he was hanging on the tree, obeying the will of the Father, answering the call that God gave the Son. And so I think ICOM this year can actually end up being something that we never thought it was going to be. And I think more people are going to see it than have ever seen it. I think God is going to take this disadvantage, turn it into an advantage, and use it for his glory. And so I would ask people to pray that God does just that we are open to God doing immeasurably more than we ever thought he could do during COVID-19.
Jeff Vines, thank you for your leadership. I appreciate your passion for Jesus, for the church, and for serving. My friends, this is a man who has served overseas as a missionary himself, leads a large church in California, is very, very well placed for such a time as this. I really believe that, Jeff. And so it's not been a comfortable place, a comfortable seat. But it has been a seat that you've done well in, and thank you for your service. And so for all of you that are listening, please hear his heart and go to the ICOM website and register today, both to pray and to go and to hear and to maybe even afterwards digest it again and share it again. So if in any way this has been a helpfulness to you, get on your social media and tell others, share it with others. There's a podcast version of this as well. And so, Jeff Vines, we thank you. And from both of us to all of you, we want to thank you for tuning into this edition of Faith Greater Than Fear. God bless you.